Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sid's Foodcast, the food podcast where me and my guests will talk about food, our love for food, and everything in the name of food. This is your host, Sid, and welcome to the show. For today's episode, we have Justine, and we talked about her life as a professional nutritionist and dietitian, her ideas about food, dieting, and a lot more. Enjoy the show.
I woke up a bit late today. I had a long night. Last night I had shrimp sinigang,
Oh, that's so
and
good.
yeah, it was healthy. Shrimp sinigang, grilled tuna belly, of course rice, and durian.
Durian.
I
Yeah, that's
love durian.
that's interesting. That's an interesting combination with durian. Um,
I can
love.
eat durian anytime.
I love sinigang, shrimp for sure, but baboy is my preference. Um,
Oh, I'm
I
so sick of pork these days. My mom is pork crazy and she just has pork every meal, and I'm just so sick of it. I was really glad
so
there was seafood last
yeah.
night. Oh, thank God.
See, yeah, that's a good way to kind of shake things up a bit. Um, Tuna belly, fave. That's definitely good. Durian, I do. It's not like I like it. I kind of if it's served, I'll eat it. I'm not gonna crave for it. So
Really?
yes, I don't
I've
crave
always thought that
durian.
people, when it comes to durian, it's either you love it or you hate it.
I don't. I
That's
can't
really
decide it.
strange.
Um, I don't know. I don't have strong feelings with durian. Maybe because I only have few interactions with the king of fruits. But so I think only like 3-4 times maybe. A lot of durian candies, but not like the actual durian. If I count how many times I've tried durian,
Oh,
maybe around
really?
4 to 5 times when I was in Davao. Never tried durian in Cebu or anywhere else, just in Davao. Yeah,
Oh,
I went to an actual durian restaurant
park.
place.
Durian restaurant.
Like so, I don't know. Basically, it was like a shop that just serves all durian,
Oh,
durian
durian. Yeah,
candy,
I haven't
durian
tried durian
ice cream.
coffee.
I haven't tried durian coffee, but so everything was durian. The actual fruit. Then there's durian candy, durian juice, durian ice cream. Yeah, so
You
those were
were
just.
crazy about it.
I was like, I don't know. I was like 16, 17 when I tried it. Yeah, so
Well, I don't actually really like durian candy. I've always preferred like the fruit more.
yeah, so
I
I
had a
don't have
choice. I
I
go
don't
for the fruit.
I don't have any strong feelings for the fruit just right now. Maybe because I haven't tried it as much. But the people who are listening, um, you you your world and your professional job work life revolves around food. And for
Yeah, it
people who do
does.
yes, and for people who do not know you, um, you are a licensed dietitian, and so she knows when she talks about food, she knows what she's talking about. So this is
It's just
perfect.
being a professional food geek, I guess.
hmm And this is
Legitimizing my being a foodie.
yes, and this is probably a perfect episode for people who are interested in knowing about the complex um, notions when it comes to dieting, because again, just for me, diet and health science is one of the most confusing
Confusing. Yeah.
and one of the most, maybe I would say, controversial
Mm-hmm.
types of
Nutrition is, I guess, like the
sciences.
most controversial branch of medical field right now.
Yes, because again, this is just I'm just trying to do like an introduction. I would say like confusing because it delves with a lot of political agenda. If
Mm.
you guys go and research about this, how back then, I would say fat is bad. Then and then suddenly fat is good, and then now in 2015 fat is maybe not so good and not so bad. Back then sugar was definitely good, and then now sugar is bad.
Eggs were
um
good, and then they're bad, and then they're good
yes.
again.
Yes, and then milk was a heavily politicized nutritional additive for Americans, because back then in World War II, like there was not a lot of food going out, so milk was like one of the necessities. So and then a lot of people started to make their own milk. I don't like their ranch for milking. And then now, because it after like the boom in the 80s, it was prosper the food was already prosperous. There's a lot of food options out there, so what are we going to do with all these farms with a lot of milk? So these milk owners actually had their own agenda. They kind of paid a lot of politicians to have this milk, like to have milk every day for these kids. So if you would see like this old slogan called "Got Milk," so it was
Yeah,
actually a very politicized slogan, because they would say milk is good for you, milk is good for you, milk is you need this for calcium. But then right now
right.
there's a lot of sciences. Again, you can definitely debunk me if you are a pro milk person. Like cow's milk, okay? Well, I'm not saying I'm particularly talking about cow's milk. So they say it's nutritious. You need this one. That's why a lot of 90s, 80s, or 70s kids, they drink a lot of milk. I don't drink milk. Like I drink almond milk. I drink milk sometimes. I eat my cereal with the milk, but that's about it.
Same. For
Yeah,
some
but
reason, like I grew up having an aversion to milk,
yeah, so it
actually.
was.
I stopped drinking it when I was in grade school.
So that
I
was
had to
like
be forced.
really really weird thing with nutrition, and a lot of agendas are basically put into play when it comes
So
to
true. A lot of people
nutrition.
don't realize that food is very political. Has a
Yes.
very political background.
Yes, but again, that's just like my take on it. It is really controversial, and so I hope Justine would give us some will shed like some information that is clarifying, that will make like into a beam of clarification for us. So but can you please, again, this is me just revving up your background, but can you please introduce yourself to everyone who's listening?
All right. So, hey guys, thanks Sid for having me on your show. Um, so, I'm now a licensed nutritionist-dietitian in the Philippines, specifically in Cebu. Uh, I particularly grew up loving food. Like I've always loved to eat, and in fact, I have a birthmark. I have a scar, battle scar for it. It's on my wrist because I couldn't wait for like the helper to serve the food on the table, and I reached out over the the hot pan and I burned myself trying to get some pancit. And yeah, but I really love to eat, and I think a lot of people who love to eat end up cooking
Mm-hmm.
because you're just greedy like that. You want more for yourself. So in high school, I sort of knew what I already wanted to be as I grew up, and I wanted to be initially a chef. And one day I read in the newspaper that Shangri-La Resort in Cebu was. They also had a nutritionist, and I was like, "Oh, that's the first time I came across that title or that profession." So I thought, oh, why don't I be both? Because they're both related to food, and so I could have more money when I grow up, having two jobs.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently, that's not really what's happening right now. Not as I expected. But I ended up, like as you said, my life really revolves around food. And I was also a food blogger for 6 years. Stopped being a food blogger when I had to study for the board exams. And since I'm a licensed dietitian now, I wanted to transition to a healthy. food blog, or like a health and wellness website.
Mhm.
But I'm not really techie, so wasn't able to set up my new my new website yet. Yeah, but here I am. I'm a licensed dietitian, and you could totally talk to me about food all day.
When did you get your license?
2015.
Oh, 2015. Oh, that's the day. That's the year I also had my license, my teaching license. So, because
Nice.
I graduated in 2015, I took the boards in 2015 as well. But your job
Cool.
is, well, my job as a teacher is definitely interesting, but I'm more interested in what you do for sure as a dietitian. But first, the idea of food as your job is something that I've always thought of ever since when I was a kid. I remember that during your sixth grade, or like whenever you're graduating grade school, they would always ask what's your job and all that one. So my mom would ask me, "Oh, what do you want to do when you're in like fourth grade, third grade?" "Oh, I want to be a chef," because I was like this really fat kid who loves to eat. I was super fat, like not really borderline obese, but definitely overweight. So I was this
Me
fat.
too.
Yes, I was this fat kid. My older brother was super thin. My youngest brother was super thin, but I was the one who's like just fat, like really like a blob. So then I wanted to be a chef, and then so that's what I wrote down in my graduation yearbook for grade school. But then suddenly I kind of like forgot about it. High school, and then when I was in college, I didn't really think about it as much. And so when I was in college, I didn't know what to take, so I kind of just took random courses. I took psychology, I took international studies, then I took so I had like a lot of college courses. Then I took
Oh.
education. Finally, I finished education. So even if I was still teaching, I love to talk. I love stories. It's also one of my passions. Maybe that's why I like doing this podcast, because I love to talk. I love to learn about different stories. But then now it's like circling back to like when I was a kid, about how I really love food so much, but not to the point that I want to become a chef. But and then but something that I want to talk about. That's why I decided to make a podcast and talking about and you being like professionalizing your love for food is also something that I want to do. So that's why maybe my baby steps is making a podcast, making a foodcast, and making my YouTube
Yeah.
videos about food. But now I talked to my wife about this one. I really am contemplating to kind of professionalize as well, but not as a dietitian, but because I love words, I love food. I perform
As a food
poetry.
writer,
Um,
maybe.
maybe I do want to write food about that one, but I am planning to study anthropology. So,
Wow.
and then because not necessarily because I want to study, I love culture, I love people, but I want to be really become a food anthropologist. So that's like the
Nice.
one.
That's
So
really
make
unique.
like a food
That's definitely a
historian.
wholly different level
Yeah.
about of
So
being a foodie.
yes. So like professionalizing on my love for food. So basically, because food anthropologists, they have to travel to wherever and they have to do research. Basically, you're paid to eat. You have to
Exactly.
eat.
Oh my
You
gosh,
know,
that's the dream job.
and then you have to kind of trace.
Dean's job was
Yes,
all our foodies' dream job.
yes, and you have to trace. Why is adobo like this? What is the original adobo? And then I kind of got the one when I was watching a lot of food videos and all that. They were talking about the history of the food. Why is budijige like that? Why is
Well,
adobo like that?
trivia,
Mm-hmm.
trivia. My favorite Filipino food is actually sisig.
Sisig, yes. And sisig was kapangpangan. There was a derivation of sisig as it was actually a salad. So that's why it's
Oh,
cooked with vinegar. So Erwin Yusuf had like this whole episode about sisig, about what's the original sisig and what it is today.
yeah.
And it's like that is super interesting, and like I love that one. I may not be as good enough to become a chef. I can definitely be good enough to talk and eat food, I guess.
Yeah, that's your path.
Yeah,
And
so
even me, I wanted to be a professional chef. I went to culinary school. Um, I was helping manage our family business before. It was a little cafe,
Mhm.
and so I was doing everything. But that business didn't really work out, and I was really on the crossroads of, you know, um, of how to go about my career. So, of course, I wanted to be a chef, but well, I met this guy,
Mhm.
some guy I dated was
Some
actually the one
guy.
who
Who is this guy?
some guy I dated before actually convinced me to go to college because I was still young. I was fresh out of high school. I went to culinary school, and I was really thinking like, I just want to start working in different hotels and restaurants to build my career already in
Mhm.
the culinary world. But he told me like, no, you're so young, you're still so young, go to college, and you're going to learn a lot of things in college, like not necessarily things in the books but the experience. And I was like,
Mhm.
okay, well, I did want to be a nutritionist too, so I guess I'll just continue on that road of also taking the nutrition degree. And I guess that was really what was meant for me.
Mhm. And now
I'm
you are a
still a bit
licensed nutritionist.
heartbroken that I can't be a professional chef anymore. I mean, I could pursue it if I wanted to,
Mhm.
but being a chef is very, I believe it's age sensitive. Like the
Mhm.
kitchens never run out of young people to hire. And it's a skill that you need to hone and practice for years. So
Years.
it's hard to
Mhm.
catch up already. It's
Mhm.
just what I think. I mean, if I were to pursue it, I'd have to drop my nutrition profession, I
Mhm.
guess. And I have met a lot of chefs who were nutritionists and they chose the culinary path in the end. So it's either or, you really can't have both somehow. It's sad, but I've accepted that this is probably the path that God led me to. And there is really a sense of purpose and fulfillment in this profession, anyway.
For sure, and that definitely doesn't mean that you can't cook. You can always definitely cook for
Yeah, you
friends,
can
for
always play
people.
around in the kitchen.
Yes, and maybe if you really have that itch, then you kind of do a pop up. Like for to
Yeah,
do a pop up. At least like you have
I'd
that feel
love
of
like
definitely cooking for people and customers. It's
I
basically it's
love private dining. Like I
yes.
just love cooking for other people and seeing
Hmm.
them enjoy
It's
food.
it has like the same kind of I don't know, like same satisfaction, but only short term. Like you're a chef for 3 days. At least you
Yeah,
could say,
right.
you did a pop up. You were a chef in a pop up restaurant or in a food bazaar.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that would kind of like if you have that itch to become a chef as well. But also for me, um, oh, hold on, my mom is calling me.
Hey, mom.
Hold on. Hello. Napapagibuhat. Yeah. So I'll just call you later, huh? See you. Bye. Sorry. Yung siya like, katanawang kanon kay mo, muli na daw siya.
She's cooking rice.
Yeah, because she's cooking adobo with star anise. Like,
Yum.
like, why is your adobo with star anise? So, sige na lang.
The controversial adobo.
Yeah. It feels so weird, but it's still pretty good. But anyways, yeah. Oh yeah, I'm talking about me coming to terms of not becoming a chef as well. I have that same thing. Um, so I really, I don't know, maybe,
It's like a totga, the one that
mhm,
got away.
yeah. So
It's
I
my
was,
totga.
so I was still thinking about, what can I do with food that because really I had like this because I was teaching literature, I was teaching English, I would love stories, I love poetry so much, but then at the very end of the day, it deals with people. It deals with stories. It deals with experience because food is a story in itself. It's an experience in itself. And
Right.
serving food is like kind of sharing an extension of yourself and
Exactly. It's
showing
an
maybe how
expression of yourself.
yes, show your artistry, your creativity, or your love for that person through food and
Yeah.
then so I kind of like to marry my love for people and stories and culture with food as well. So anthropology, food culture, food stories. It deals
Yeah,
with
and that's
people.
what's really nice about food. Like there's so many directions you can take that's
Yes.
still very much about food.
Yes, and we can definitely geek out with all the other types and what food. And for people listening, you can definitely check out the other episodes. But we want to talk um about nutrition,
Yeah, a
nutritionists,
little bit on the
dietitians.
technical side about
Yes,
food.
so we're gonna talk about that one for this episode. But for you as a dietitian and as you as a professional, what is the worst junk food that you crave for all the like not all the time, like trashy junk food, like you could say like, oh, that's really unhealthy, but you crave.
What is it? Um, and I guess it would be like street food,
Like
like
what kind?
ginabot.
Oh,
Ginabot in Cebu, that's chicharon bulaklak in Manila, or it's like deep fried innards
oh, that's so good.
internationally. But yeah, I call it our national flower.
That's, I love ginabot so much. I love that. So simple
Ginabot
though.
and
Hmm.
also chicken proven. I'm so in love with chicken proven, my gosh. I think I
And
like it more than ginabot.
you know it's
Guilty.
bad for you, but you're
Sorry.
still gonna eat it anyway.
And sisig. Sisig is really my favorite. I mean, there really was a time when I'd eat sisig every day. If
Hmm.
I could, I'd have it every day.
Right.
Of course, I don't do that now.
And we just want to break into like this thing of like if you're a professional chef, it doesn't mean you can't crave for Jollibee. Like, oh, you work in a
Oh
five-star
yeah.
restaurant, you know. So even if you're like a fitness guy, fitness woman, you'd still eat junk sometimes. It's not like, oh, why are you eating this?
I
Like,
have a weakness for cookies. I'm such a
mhm.
cookie monster. Like I'd prefer cookies and brownies over cakes.
Really?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I kind of I like cookies. I like oatmeal cookies, but if
I like
something,
the crisp on the outside and chewy on the inside. Oh
oh,
my god.
I love that too. Like really thick
Like
cookies.
crinkles.
Oh, me too. But right now, I am particularly fond of sugar cookies, the white kind of
I'm
cookie.
not a fan of that.
Really,
I
not a
hate
fan.
butter cookies. You know those Danish butter
Oh,
cookies
I
that they
like
give away?
those.
That Filipinos use as sewing kits in the end when it's
Uh-huh.
empty.
Yeah, I love those. I love those.
I
So,
hate those. I'd always give them away. Like, why are you giving me these cookies?
but for chewy cookies, I love chewy cookies more than the like really crispy ones. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
chewy, gooey cookies like that.
Yep.
So yeah,
Mm. And
I
cookie
yes,
ice cream sandwiches.
mhm, for sure, man. I want to start off with that question because to break the idea like, oh, you're a nutritionist, so you don't eat junk food.
A lot of people tend to think that we constantly count our calories, but that's
Yes.
really not the case. We
Mhm.
we don't do that, and we wouldn't want you to do that as well. It's really stressful. We're all allergic to numbers here, you know. We don't want we don't want to
count
think about numbers all the time.
count your macros and eat granola and quinoa every day. Not bashing people doing like that. Kudos to you, like for going through that healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have my own take on that, but we'll talk about that later. And my introduction with nutritionists is hmm, um, I think when think of nutritionists, I think of LeBron James for some reason because his
Hmm.
he spends $1.2 million just for food and paying his nutritionist. I don't know if it's a woman or a man, but he pays his or her his nutritionist and his chef like everything about his food like $1.2 million every year. And if for people don't know on LeBron James, he's 36, 35 years old, and he's still at the peak of his game. And if you're in the
Yeah.
NBA level, 36, you're considered very old. but he still fights and still performs like he's 24. And one of the key things of his conditioning, besides taking care of his body physically with his workouts, is actually his nutrition. And he pays that amount, 1.2 million, for food alone. Imagine that. Second thing, I think of Japanese cafeterias, because I saw this YouTube video where these elementary public schools in Japan, where they would have super good food, and
Wow.
their kitchen is like an industrial kitchen, and kids are actually serving, like, grade 4 kids will serve grade 1 or 2 kids their food, and they would keep
Oh,
their food. They would
yeah, the
clean their
kids in
food.
Japan are super independent. Like,
Yes,
see little kids
yes, like
riding the
super
metro.
awesome. Yeah, the kids would serve the food. They would clean their plates. They would put it away, and it was so awesome. And then the planning is made by a dietitian, a nutritionist, and each school would have their own nutritionist. It's like that is so awesome.
That is
Uh,
so ideal.
yeah, and then her job is to kind of like make sure that it's not the same, it's not redundant. Like they would have different types of food, the budgeting of the food, how they kind of like where did they get the food. Sometimes the kids in their class, they would like gardening class, so they would also use that one in their
That's
food. And
amazing.
then like she explained how, like, oh, she has to deal with the budgeting, she would deal with the calorie count, she would deal with the nutritional values and the taste as well, and the allergies and
It's
all
the
that.
same in the hospital where in the Philippines, that's the usual setting, or it's the usual field where you find the nutritionists. It's mostly in the hospital,
It's not good
but
though. Ho-
also
Hospital food, not so
that's
good.
why it hasn't really leveled up yet.
Yeah.
But there's really a lot of gaps in the academe and in the support as well of the government for our profession and even health in general in terms of prioritizing, the health management of the country.
And
So
where is your area of specification when it comes to nutritionists? Are you more of like private clients, athletes, etc.? Are you more
yeah, so I'm more
diet?
into private practice, wellness, clinical nutrition, um, starting with I've also been studying more about sports nutrition as well. Yesterday, I was just on a webinar as well for sports nutrition with UP Diliman.
Mhm.
And so, but just for everyone to know, the three main areas or main fields where nutritionists usually work in the Philippine setting is we have three areas. So there's clinical, there's food service, and there's public health. So clinical is usually in the hospital. And so this is also how our internship is like in school. We have three areas where we have to intern in. So clinical in the hospital, food service is either in the hotels or restaurants or catering companies, or food. Yeah, usually hotels, restaurants, or catering companies. Um, Food processing companies is mostly for food techs. So that's different from dietitians. It's more on food processing. And then third is public health, which is with government agencies like DOH or the National Nutrition Council, and usually they would also be in the barangay health centers because the rural health units. Yeah, so I fall under clinical, private practice, and it's
So,
quite rare
yeah.
actually. It's quite rare in the country because a lot of people still don't know what services we can actually offer. Usually, I guess they think it's just meal plans, but it's more than that. It's also about you know health coaching, a lot of health coaching, it's nutrition coaching, It has to be a long-term relationship with our patients or our clients. It's not like doctors, like you only have a short time with your doctor. Like you just go have have yourself checked by a doctor for like 15 minutes and they give you prescription for medication and you're done and you probably go back after a few months. But with nutritionists, you have to visit us more often because we have to follow through with the plan that we've discussed or we've created together for you. So yeah, it's
Out.
it's a whole different practice.
Yeah, and if we think of health and wellness, there's this like idea that health being healthy is like 70% is with your food and 30% is like your workouts, right? Like
Oh, you know
exercise,
what?
like that one.
I have a and he says that with that particular
Ratio.
formula,
Hmm.
yeah, it's it should actually be 100% diet and nutrition and 100% exercise, you know. So you have to be all in. You can't it would be better to think of it that way because if you think of it
Oh,
as 70-30, then there would be an inequality in the way
oh.
you commit yourself to these things,
What do you think?
right?
Oh, I don't have 200% of myself. Like, where's my job? Where's my hobbies? I'm just kidding. Like, we have to be all in, is like what they're saying. Okay,
Yeah.
for sure. And hope, and I guess this is me coming from a place of the idea that having like a health expert, whether it's going to a doctor or whether it's going to a nutritionist or any kind of medical thing, is we go there when there's a problem. Like
Right.
like that's the only thing. Like we, it's either like you have an annual checkup for sure. That would be definitely be great. Like I would always assume that annual checkups are very important for your health.
Mm-hmm.
Then I even think that going through a therapist is also very very important. Even if you don't have mental problems or anything whatsoever,
Right.
to just
Right.
check on your psychological emotional well-being.
Right.
Uh, but and then there's also nutrition as well, you know. But we don't think about that one. We think when we go there when there's a problem, and we
Right.
think of it sometimes as like a luxury in a way,
Mm.
and all that one. But how do we convince these people that your nutrition is much as important as your monthly membership in Anytime Fitness or in like your local gym, because they're more opt into that because they can actually, you know, I'm paying for this monthly and I don't care. Like I'll pay 2,000 pesos to work out or not work out at Anytime Fitness, but they don't take the time to, you know, do a weekly or a yearly checkup to a dietitian. I mean,
Mm.
I haven't, I don't do that one too. So how do we
Right.
convince these people? Or should we? Or is this
First things
actually
first.
necessity? Yeah.
Yeah, first things first, you can never outrun a bad diet. So
Mhm.
no matter how much you move or how much you exercise, if you're not watching what you eat and even how you sleep as well, how you recover, how you rest, it's not going to work for you. So you can never outrun a bad diet. And like you mentioned, Lebron spends $1.2 million a year on his food, on his nutritionist, and that speaks volumes of how valuable nutrition is to one's health. And if you think about it, you know, everybody eats, um, and food is really what is really where our health is rooted on. All right. So actually, the most important decisions we make each day are the food choices that we make, right? So we vote with our fork. The most important decisions we make each day are made with our fork. And there's also a saying like, what you eat today, you will feel tomorrow. So
For
um,
sure. I could
yeah,
definitely.
our food choices are really important. And nutrition is very much preventive. as well as it's curative because food is also medicine.
Mhm.
And I guess, people just really have to be educated on the fact that health is an investment and food is part of that, you know. And so you'd rather spend more on real food, which you can enjoy eating, rather than medications later on when you just
Right.
wait until you have a problem with your body. And usually it tends to be too late, like a lot of damage has been done on your body by the time you feel something. And when we feel something, those symptoms are signs of things going
Mhm.
wrong in your body, right? So why do you wait when you can think of your body as a car, let's say a luxury car, diba? You want to keep it in good condition
For
as long
sure.
as possible. If you think of your body as a luxury car, like a Porsche or whatever your dream car, it's Ferrari, Lamborghini, you wouldn't want to feed it cheap gas.
For
So
sure.
yeah, and you want it to be casa maintained. So casa maintenance is our sleep, our recovery. So sleep is the only time our body gets to rest and recover, and that's
Mhm.
actually also the time when the nutrients that we eat, especially from fruits and vegetables, that's the time they work. They do their thing, they do their magic when we're sleeping. And so when we don't rest well, then it's not gonna happen.
Treat your body like a temple. No?
Yeah, it's the
If
only
you,
body we have. No matter how rich you are, you can't
Mhm.
buy a replacement body in the market.
Right. Right. And um, I guess my main thing when we think of wellness and nutrition, it's for people who can't afford.
Mm,
That's my main idea when it comes to. I don't have time to think of my wellness or food if I'm thinking of of I don't know, like my job, or like where can I pay for this and that, bills to pay and all that. But if we think of it as a preventive measure, I guess that would definitely help. Like in the long run, you said, oh, you don't have time to think of your health, but then your body will break down, and ipso facto, you will pay a lot more in the long run if it
right.
breaks down. Like you would
Especially
rather,
when it comes to
yeah,
medications or medicine. Like
mhm,
you think a lot of people think that they can just depend on medicine.
right,
Like, oh, there's always a pill for it. There's always medicine for it. But
mhm,
we all tend to forget that all medicines have side effects on our bodies, and it'll definitely take its toll
mhm,
on our bodies eventually. So, again, it's really best to invest in real food, which you can enjoy rather than medications later on. And medications or medicines are an additional expense on top of your
for
meals.
sure, yes. And if you don't
Yes,
think, oh, like I'm just gonna eat pancit canton, like blah blah blah, but then when you grow old, you're gonna pay for it. You're gonna pay for
exactly.
it. Yes,
And
and
it's
it
inconvenient to have to
mhm,
pop several pills in your mouth every morning or every night or whatever the schedule is. It's
for
inconvenient.
sure, yeah. So imagine me, I want to be more inclined to my health than wellness. So I'm gonna approach you. What's the process like, and and then is it expensive? Like I kind of like, like can I actually afford this and all that? Obviously,
Mm,
it would depend on the expertise and the rates. We get
mm.
that part, but like just for a standard, what are the procedures if I want to have I don't know what you call it, a nutrition
In
checkup,
consultation.
a nutrition consultation. How does
Consultation.
it work?
Right. So first thing we do is assessment, right? So um, a lot of times people think that they can just approach us and say, okay, make a meal plan for me. It just doesn't work that way. We
Mhm.
actually need to get more context and more information about you before we can create that meal plan or that nutrition program that's best for you. And um, not a lot of people may know, but like there's no one size diet that fits
For sure.
everybody. We're
Hmm.
we're all biologically unique. We all have different needs. So that's why there's assessment that needs to be done because there are a lot of factors need to be considered in crafting the best nutrition plan for you. So assessment is the first step. And so for me, in my private practice, I usually send my assessment forms first so I can get initial information before we meet for the initial session. Um, so yeah, there's the pre-assessment, and then the initial session would be discussion of or clarifications of any information, and then also setting goals together. So creating the nutrition plan together. So it's really a partnership with the patient or the client. It's not supposed to be like a dictatorship role, where we just impose like, okay, you just stop eating this, stop eating that, and that's it. um, so yeah, assessment is the first step, and as mentioned, you really have to see your nutritionist frequently, at least at most twice a month, maybe. So it really depends on the practitioner. Like on my end, usually I see my clients every 2 weeks for the first month, and then if I see that they're a bit more independent in the way they manage their health, then we can see each other monthly after that. And it's usually at least a 3-month program because as with medical studies as well, medical journals, or studies, it takes at least 3 months to see significant results. So you can't expect to have a weight loss program and just do it for a month. It has to be at
For
least
sure.
3 months or 6 months even. And we're basically here to guide you on how to lose weight the healthy and sustainable way. It's not about how fast you lose the weight, it's how long you keep it off. So yeah. Hope I answered that question.
Oh, for sure, yes. And then when I think of that too, oddly enough, I think of there's this podcast that I really love with Sab Magalon and her wife, her husband, where they went to a nutritionist and then they figured they had to run some tests as well. And then his husband is particularly fit, but then like they found something that like he has like high in cholesterol or in one way
Mhm.
or another. So even if you
Yeah,
are
you
fit,
can be skinny fit.
yeah,
Yeah, you can be
yeah,
skinny fat.
mhm,
Like just because a person is thin, it doesn't mean they're healthy.
yes.
Um, so there's skinny fat,
and
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 that's
they
why some lab
yeah,
tests have to be run to
hmm
confirm that.
and they got that one from their nutritionist. Like so he thinks that he's healthy and all that, but then he actually has high in cholesterol, and
Yeah, so
you get that
when
one.
you go to a doctor, doctors don't ask you what you eat or how you've been eating, how your lifestyle is like. They usually just treat the symptoms. That's
Mhm,
why we're here, because we're the ones who are really specializing in your diet and lifestyle.
mhm.
So yeah,
And
we work closely with doctors.
mhm.
Hopefully, more doctors will be open to that partnership because we are supposed to work closely together.
Do you have clients that are they obviously you don't need to name them. Um, you have like clients that they go to you, they ask for advice, but they don't really follow it.
Oh yeah, yeah. So that's also one thing that I want people to know before they see a nutritionist. When you want to see a nutritionist, whether it's for preventive reasons or you do have certain health concerns, I think people have to be prepared mentally that, when you see a nutritionist, you're setting yourself up for change, a change in behavior and a change in mindset. So that's
You have to be
hard.
prepared.
Yeah, you have to
You
be
have to put in the
prepared.
work.
Yeah, it's not just, nutritionists can't make you thin, teachers can't make you smart, that saying. So
Mhm,
it's still up to you, and you really have to have that mindset where you want to commit to your health and do what you can about it.
mhm.
So yeah, it's about behavior change a lot. That's why
Yes.
nutrition has a lot to do with psychology as well. We work with where our patients or clients are at. We can't impose anything because then in the end they're not going to follow it anyway. So I try my best to meet my clients where they're at and work with them from there.
Right, and they'd be just be wasting money. If
Yeah.
you go there like you're not gonna do the work.
Yeah. So that's actually also one of the strategies to keep them committed. It's actually to get them to pay ahead
Mhm.
so they commit to it. Just
Yeah.
like your gym membership where, okay, I already paid for this, I have to go to this. So,
Yes, for sure. Like, oh man, you already went to a nutritionist. Why? You should definitely just go with the plan.
yeah.
Oh, another thing. Not necessarily with your work, but there's again we mentioned before about how nutrition science, health science is very controversial. And because again, I mentioned about the milk thing, but there's also like
Mhm.
superfoods. What do you think about superfoods? Like, what do you call that one?
Like chia
The
seeds,
chia seeds and all that one. Like
flax
the
seeds, and all the
flax
seeds.
seeds, super. They were considered superfoods like 3 or 4 years ago. And now I read an article that there's no such term as a superfood.
Yeah, because like there's no one single food that's super that contains like all the nutrients that you need. This is exactly why variety is really important in our diet. Not about eating the same
But
things
why did they
over
have the term? Why were they coined
superfood.
super? Because they're like densely healthy or what?
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
they just have really certain nutrients that are really high
Mhm.
in those foods. But again, we still need a variety of nutrients. It's not just that particular nutrient, like let's say for seeds and nuts, it's omega 3s or healthy fat or vitamin E. We still need all the rest of the nutrients. So you can't just depend on a single food to make you healthy.
Okay.
And again, our body actually really loves variety. We were meant to have a diversity of
Right.
nutrients
For
and
sure.
diversity of food. Yeah.
What do you think of? Okay, my mom is really into it. But what do you think of food supplements?
Oh,
Like, I think it's a waste of money. I think like that's for
it's
me.
a
Like,
billion trillion dollar business.
yes, it does. Like, it's like, can you really pack 200 vegetables in one capsule? Like, for real, is that
Right. That's
really a thing?
always their line.
Like,
There is truth to it though. I mean, like of course we can consider how our food is being produced these days and how the soil isn't as healthy, but like I think that I still believe that real food is always superior to supplements. Real natural food is actually what our body accepts the best, um, because since supplements are artificial, they're artificially extracted, they may come from real food, but it's not like it's just a single component of that food. While whereas with real food, all the components have a role in how the nutrient is absorbed in our bodies, and that's why it's really important to eat real whole food as much as possible and get the most nutrients from these real food because that's what our bodies accept best.
so they work in a way.
Yeah, like even so like the skin, the fiber, the flesh of that fruit
Mhm.
and all the nutrients in that fruit, they all they're they have an interplay in how they are absorbed in our bodies and even interacting with digestion that starts in our mouth, interacting with the
Mhm.
saliva in our
Right.
mouth. All
Yeah.
these things come into play and how the nutrient is absorbed. So that's
Mhm.
why like, juicing, if you think about it, juicing is practically pre-masticating your food because you're having a machine
Mhm.
chew that food for you.
And then you just drink it.
Yeah,
Because I don't know, because just there's a lot of pyramiding scandals that revolves around food supplements,
exactly. Because
they
it's a
cure
business.
cancer, gout, and all that. Like really from this capsule, like I guess, like you know,
For
the
certain health conditions, I guess like there are certain nutrients that need to be emphasized or boosted in your system.
oh yeah,
But yeah, but again, all of us are really biologically unique. not everybody metabolizes fat the same way. Not everybody metabolizes carbs the same way. That's why designer nutraceuticals are now a thing, because we all have different needs. So it's not, I think multivitamins are really very well marketed to,
Yes.
brainwash everybody that we all need multivitamins.
Oh, yeah.
But
And I
there
don't
should
have.
be more emphasis in
Yes.
getting our nutrients from
Mhm.
real food, and just really making the effort to do so.
And I don't have okay, like I don't have beef with food supplements and multivitamins and all that one. It's just for some people who think that it's like it's gonna cure your cancer or mawala imo ang, like I don't know, something same swelling and all that. Like
Yeah.
like no, see a doctor, man. Don't don't buy food supplements because you have gout. See a doctor.
Yeah, and a lot of times it ends up becoming a cocktail, like we call it
Mm,
polypharmacy, because then you end up taking a lot of different pills or
mhm.
supplements just because you think that, oh, I need
Yeah.
this. Oh, I need this too.
Yeah.
So,
That's why it's called a supplement, like
yeah, it's a supplement. It's
yeah.
not a replacement for
Yes.
real food or for a complete meal.
Yeah, that's just my beef with it because like, oh, gilantan ka, oh, drink this food supplement. Or like, oh, like oh, you have gout or you have like, I don't know, sakit sa kaso-kasuan, you drink this food
Yeah.
supplement. Like,
People
no.
just really want, quick fixes and
Yeah,
magic pills.
yeah. The
And that's really not how we're meant to, we were
but
made.
but these companies are kind of selling it that way. So that's my beef on it. Like
Mm-hmm.
like they have this disclaimer, but their disclaimer is like 20 seconds. But their benefits and their like testimonials is like
Oh,
nawala akong
yeah.
gout and nawala akong cancer because of this blah blah
Oh,
blah.
yeah.
No, it helps,
It's
but
tough
it's
on my end as a professional. I try to stick to the code of ethics, and I really do my best to not be affiliated or associated with any, especially MLM companies or networking companies who
mhm,
sell these food
yes.
supplements. Or
Hmm.
yeah, and it's tough because they do a lot of they do a lot of bribing. They really like tempt you to join their company and promote their products.
It's a
And
lot of moolah, a lot of money.
yeah, but I really do my best to not
Hmm.
get carried away by it, no matter how
Yes.
hard life can be. But
Hmm.
you just really have to have integrity, and I think integrity pays off in the end. And when you have integrity, people trust you more.
And I guess that goes to the other topic of politicizing nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that we could use this as like one of my last topics before we end this podcast about, you know, there's a lot of money involved. Just like the milk companies, like
The food
the
industry, the pharmaceutical industry, they're all in cahoots with politics.
it's a lot, like just to prove that sugar is okay, then fat is okay, then it's not okay because other
Yeah.
politicians have their own agenda. The Nutribun during the Marcos era is just it's very very controversial, and we can definitely talk about this one. And again, just to confirm about this, you told me like it is highly politicized.
Mhm.
What do you think of just the what else what other healthy food trends are there? The ginger shots. Does that work?
Mhm.
Like the like
Malunggay capsules, things like that. I mean,
yeah.
like
It does it
malunggay is
does it fall in the
basically,
same category as like food supplements, like the ginger
yeah,
shots, like
they're all supplements. And again, they're being marketed as superfoods. Like, oh, if you drink this every morning, then you will have better blood pressure, no more diabetes, whatever.
mm-hmm,
But again, like people rely on that and forget about actually like the overall quality of their
mm-hmm.
food, or how are they really eating the rest of the day aside from taking that ginger shot.
Sure.
So
Yeah, take ginger shots and then at night you take tequila shots.
yeah, or turmeric shots or whatever. But there's actually a saying like, people are, what is it? It's usually in my slides, but it's like, um, we are fed by a food industry that pays no mind to our health and are served by the health industry, which pays no mind to our food. So both the health industry and the food industry, a lot of it is really just business. They don't really care about our health. And so I guess what we can get out of it in the end, what we can really do is it's really a matter of choice. And that's how important our food choices are. It's still up to us. We always have a choice. Well, even if our environment doesn't exactly support it, even if our government doesn't really support a healthy lifestyle, but we always have a choice. It just takes a little more effort and just a bit more awareness. But we can still, make the choice.
Yes, and the awareness thing is also what I always been talking about my other podcasts, where if you're aware that you're drinking 10 tequila shots, or you're aware you're drinking, you're eating healthy and all that one, you don't eat mindlessly. Like, you think that, oh, I know I'm eating fried chicken and I know what's going to happen, and I still want to eat fried chicken, then that's all, and that's fair. Like, at least you know what happens if you eat this
Yep.
and if you eat that. So that's why, like, when it comes to food in general, I did try a lot of diets, and then kind of like, oh, I just want to look at after the effect and all that one. But now I'm just being more aware of what I eat. Like, if I know if I eat this cupcake right now, this is what I'm going to happen. So am I going to be fine with it? Like, is it okay
Yeah.
for me? And then if
Yeah.
it's not, then I won't eat it. But if it's okay, then sure, by all means. Like, that's just my take when it comes to food. Like,
Right.
I'm not gonna eat this because of this and that. I decide what I want to eat. That's just my take on the whole situation when it comes to food. But
Yeah,
yeah.
and with nutrition also I want people to know that nutrition is, beyond the calories and beyond the restrictions. It's not
Mhm.
about restrictions. It's actually about a healthy relationship with food and your body. It's knowing that you have the choice and you have the power to um you have the power to heal yourself. Your body can heal itself if you give it the right conditions.
Mhm. Because you're
So
gonna hate eating in that way, because if you think of it as like a, like,
if you think of it as
you
like
just,
bad food and good
mm,
food and like cheat days and cheat
yeah.
meals, like it's really not a healthy way of
Mhm.
eating.
Right, yeah, like, that's why I kind of changed my approach to that one. And maybe I've learned a lot of things from this episode, particularly something that I could definitely apply in my own life. But what we consider to be like a healthy food option that would be widely available to every normal Filipino out there? What would be, like, if you could think of a meal like breakfast or lunch, or maybe ingredients that they can incorporate in their day-to-day lives?
You know what? The first thing that always comes to mind is kamote or sweet potato because it's always available and it's dirt cheap. I mean,
Hmm.
it's cheap, it's available, and since a lot of us don't get enough fiber as well, and people tend to eat too much rice, so they
Hmm.
might consider, swapping their rice with kamote. Sometimes it adds a good variety to your diet and definitely has more nutrients as well rather than white rice.
Sure.
So healthy
Hmm.
eating doesn't have to be expensive. There's always economical choices like kamote, and even malunggay is free from your neighbor.
Yes.
So, like there are a lot of vegetables that are very affordable and your body will love you for it.
Yes, and healthy eating doesn't mean that it has to be tasteless or like it's not good.
Yeah.
You know, healthy eating could be actually good, and you would enjoy it. You know, I like
Yes.
kangkong. I like cauliflower. Um, I like broccoli.
I guess
So,
it's also about knowing how to season your food aside from
mhm.
soy sauce. A lot of
Yes.
Filipino food is just doused in soy sauce.
Mhm.
Um, but if you just learn to explore the different herbs and spices that we have locally, like star anise and ashuete and
Mhm.
ginger, those are spices as well. And what else? Lemongrass is so good. I love anything with lemongrass. Um, we have our laurel, our bay leaf, a lot like peppercorn. We also have that, and it's just a matter of really harnessing these natural herbs and spices to season our food.
Make it
Um,
really more beautiful and tasty. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I would definitely want to talk more about it, but it's already been over an hour. Thank you so much, Justine, for
Thanks
all
so much.
the information and all the different ideas that we talked about. I hope people could get something out of it for this
I hope
episode.
so.
Yes. And um, where can they find you in the
Oh,
internet?
you can
And
find me on Facebook. My name in Facebook is Justine Lugov. I also have a page. It's Babe for Food. You can also find me on Instagram at Babe for Food. And also, please do follow and like my little business. It's Well and Good PH. It's a local healthy grocer. So I only sell the things that I believe in, healthy
mm,
food, healthy snacking, whatever. So yeah, please do
all
follow
right.
Well and Good PH.
Yes. Do
Thank
you
you
have
so
any?
much for
Yes.
having
Do you have upcoming things, events, or shows or webinars you want to plug into?
Oh, I've had several for this month. None yet so far for next month, just private
Okay.
events.
All
But
right.
definitely check out the page for updates. Yeah.
Yes. So if you want any, if this is your day to change your life when it comes to food, you can definitely reach out to her. If you're in Cebu, or maybe, if you're not in Cebu, maybe
Or
she could,
anywhere. I
or
also have
anywhere.
clients in the US, in Manila, and
Yes.
outside Cebu. So
Mm. So you can definitely, if you say, fuck it, I need to change, I'm gonna drop this Cheetos and, go message her and go check out her Instagram. Thank you so much, Justina. I had a very fun time talking to you. But
enjoy
again,
eating.
yes, the last question for this podcast. If you could have any meal right now, any meal in the world, whether you tried it before or you want to eat it again, I mean, you've never tried it, what would it be?
I love seafood. Take me anywhere with seafood. Lobsters, crabs,
Oh,
shrimps.
well, you can
Yeah,
only pick
I love
one though, just the one. One dish. One dish. Be as specific
this
as
is
you could
like
be.
my death meal, my death row meal.
Hmm. Right
Oh
now, right now.
Lord.
Like you don't need to think. Just say the first dish that you have in mind.
Um, mm, so hard.
I have a lot of interesting answers for this question. So go.
Maybe it would be like okay, fine, just top of mind, like lobster mac and cheese.
Ooh, so good. Lobster mac and cheese. Good
Lobster
choice.
mac and cheese.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.